Bringing smiles to the world, we're hitting first base. Marty Lurie with friends, home run. You know the ways and the trends, the stories all with the match of the block. It's Marty and friends. Marty and friends.
All right, great to have you with us today. I love it. And it is Marty Lurie and Friends today, produced by Ryan, who's the best. And Danny is up there in the right-hand corner, Eric below him, and the king, Larry Krueger, is with us today. And it's four guys talking ball. This is good, man. I've been looking forward to this all day long. Giants win a big game today, 9-5 over the Red Sox. And they hit home runs. And they did it all really without Rafi Devers. You know, he got a hit, he got a walk in there, and he's a presence. But the Giants really took care of business today. The Red Sox fumbled it away, and the Giants crushed the ball. And some people really stood up for the Giants today, and it'd be fun to talk about it. But they take the series with the Red Sox, 2 or 3, a day off, and then the Marlins come in. And then you go to the White Sox. So this could be a good week of Giants baseball. But a win today, 9-5. Yastrzemski hit a home run. Schmidt hit just a rocket today. Just a rocket for him today. Adames crushed one today. It's a good day for the Giants. So, Danny, this is your guy, man. You've been talking Schmidt for 2 years. Schmidt, and Larry's going to back you up on this. I know that. But Casey Schmidt, with Chapman hurt, Casey Schmidt has stood in here. And he is actually establishing a presence.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what to say other than, you know, I've been watching ball for a long time, and it doesn't mean I'm right all the time when I look at guys. I make mistakes on people. But the one thing I could say, is when I looked in the spring of a couple years ago and I saw Ramos, and I watch a lot of minor league baseball on the MILB network, and I watched Casey play down at Sacramento, and when he played in Richmond, I see a ball player, and not just a guy that has instincts, but a guy that, you know, has tools that, and I just didn't understand why the Giants were never giving these guys a shot. If you look at the Giants lineup right now, the top 2 hitters are Ramos and Schmidt, 2 homegrown guys that the Giants were actually blocking and only got chances due to basically injury. And I think they were making a mistake. I hope that it continues. I mean, guys go up and down with hot streaks, but you could see Casey's a player. He's looks totally different at the plate right now. He's not chasing balls like he was his first year. He came up, got hot the first 3 weeks, and then they figured out his weaknesses and they started throwing balls outside the zone. He was chasing. He had to adjust. The thing is, the guy just needs everyday at bats. And this team's going to get better when Matt Chapman comes back, because I think Casey's going to be clearly the second baseman when Chapman comes. And, you know, you're going to just make the lineup a little longer. So it was great to see. I'll turn it over to Larry, but let me just say this. Yesterday was a crucial game because they had to have yesterday's game because they were 1-3 with Devers. Get yesterday, it creates momentum. Now you've got Miami coming in, and you can create some bigger momentum as you've got, you know, next homestand after this, you got the Phillies and the Dodgers. So you better start winning these games coming ahead of what's ahead of you right now.
Well, I mean, obviously great win today. And, you know, I'll say this. I mean, I don't know if it's because I was in Boston and my nephew, and I was there watching that thing Friday night, or if it's just because it's the Red Sox Giants. But, man, this series was awesome. I mean, this was a very, very exciting series of Giants baseball. And, I you know, this is a big show because I don't think I have streamed with Danny or with Marty since the trade. that brought Devers aboard. And I just think that, I love Buster, and yet we were all kind of waiting. Buster hadn't made a deal, and for the most part, other than what he'd done in the offseason. And we're kind of waiting what kind of imprint would he put on this team. And, the fact is now you got a lineup. I mean, you got a team that's, starting to become wildly entertaining. Devers is a tremendous hitter. I thought the point that Melvin made, I thought was really a good point in the pregame where he said, not only is Devers the kind of hitter that can obviously hit the fastball, but his timing on the breaking ball is what makes him really, really good. And, that you just can't teach. He's dialed in. Ramos, Devers, Jung Hoo will get it going. You add guys like Schmidt and some of the, guys coming out of the system. Bailey, what he does behind the plate, obviously he's not hitting. He did get a hit today, but Buster's building something that, a kind of a special 1 through 8. So I loved the Devers trade. I thought the what they gave away was totally, just very, very underwhelming from the Red Sox perspective. And I think it's a shot in the arm for the Giants. And this Red Sox team, let's not make any mistake about it. This is a huge accomplishment to win 2 out of 3. I watched them coming in. They were playing well. They had swept the Yankees. And to me, if there was one thing that was really apparent today, was that Boston's lineup yesterday and then what Boston's lineup was today against the lefty. They stacked their lineup with a bunch of guys who really look good against left-handed pitching. And I don't know what their record is against lefties, but I expect them to be a really tough team against left-handed pitching. This game was incredibly entertaining and a great win for the Giants. A lot of things to talk about, too.
Absolutely. And what was incredible today, man, I was watching the game on the TV. Oracle Park was playing like Coors Field. I mean, the ballpark was live today, and it was great to see the Giants actually take advantage of that, because the last couple of days, the hits haven't quite been there, especially with the runs. So it was nice for once to see the Giants lineup wake up a little bit, help out this the rotation, because man, that's the story of the season right now. The starting rotation and the bullpen is what's carrying this team. Today was a little bit different. Today, the lineup put the pitching on their back and they carried the way, and it was great to see. Willie Adames hitting one, that was awesome. Of course, Schmidt, we're talking about Schmidt, had a 4-for-4 day. I mean, the guy was freaking incredible day, and playing some awesome defense. Almost had that guy at third after that amazing catch. Almost got the guy at first with that amazing catch at third. Ramos a little bit weird in the field, but he made up for it. Had a nice hit, also had a double. So it's just great to see the guys going out there and seeing the lineup being a little bit deeper. As Larry is talking about, when you add Rafael Devers to your lineup, you got that middle of the order bat that the Giants needed, and I think it helps the rest of the rest of the club, because the pitcher is on the mound going, I don't want to face this guy. This guy is awesome. If you go in person and you watch this guy take some hacks, it's a sight to behold. The guy is just otherworldly when he's swinging the bat. So again, I think Marty, you talked about how even though Devers wasn't a big factor, he's still a factor in the sense that now the pitcher may be relaxed with some of these other hitters in the Giants lineup, and they got it done today. So it was great to see.
Well,
also, I think what might be really important is to see this team. This ballpark plays differently in the day than it does the nighttime. And I love seeing the Saturday, Sunday games. It's packed. It's a packed house. The ball moves. The wind was blowing out today. I actually took the over the last 2 nights and the last 2 games and won both games. The Giants, this park is not bad at all, especially for right-handed hitters. Ball carries to left field here. And I would love to see the Giants go back to what they used to do at Candlestick, which was play a lot more day games, maybe one weeknight game during a homestand during each week, and the rest day games. There's a lot more action. The night games are they're boring. It's like 2-1.
Well, they do the night games to make money. TV demands, they demand the games at night. So
but too many people don't show up though to those night games. So during the midweek,
they're getting paid plenty to have these games on at night. They don't need to. This isn't Wrigley. So that's what happened.
It is interesting. Saturday has become a kind of a night thing instead of a day thing. Well, I always thought of Saturday as a daytime thing, but they play. I bet you the Giants. I haven't looked at it, but I would guess they play more Saturday nights at home this year than Saturday days. I'll say this: I don't have as much of a problem with it as Danny does. But back in the Candlestick days, oh man, I mean, I would much rather go on Saturday afternoon than go on a night game.
Yeah, just looking at the calendar, it looks like it's split the rest of the season, night, day on Saturdays. So at a couple of points, one, I'm interested to hear Larry's take on the trade being in Boston, because reading Dan Shaughnessy and the different columnists, they really blasted the Red Sox for making the deal. This is a deal for the Giants that was too good to pass up. I don't care what Boston really wanted. They wanted Devers out. That's the take I get. And Posey was there to make it happen. And they've been talking about it. And even Wotus said this morning on the show that Devers' name had come up about a month ago, that they thought that he could become available. But Lou Marston said something on the chat, which is very true. Last year when Lee got hurt, I think Ramos got his shot. And Ramos is now a fixture. This year, Chapman gets hurt, and here's Casey Schmidt, who undoubtedly is going to get the job, I think, at second base when Chapman comes back and take over for Fitzgerald. But the thing with Devers is interesting because he's such a good hitter. You've gotten one of the best hitters in baseball over the last 5 years. He can go the other way, and he gives the lineup a presence. And to me, that's the biggest deal is now, as Woe said today, the last couple of days when Devers came up, the coaches and the other team came out to talk about it. He says they never do that with giant hitters. They never talk about it. And with Devers, they've done it the last 2 times. So it's coming with him. But they got a guy like a Bill Madlock. I mean, they got a pure hitter in this lineup. And maybe like a little like Melky in a way, he just has that beautiful flat swing. He doesn't have that crazy uppercut swing. He's got a flat swing. And as Woe said, he can get on top of the fastball if they pitch him up there. So that's my take on Devers. About the game today, the Giants scored 9, only 4 were earned. The Red Sox really kicked it around today. It was a crazy game for the Red Sox today defensively, and the Giants took advantage of it. But the big thing is they didn't strike out. Bailey put the ball in play and allowed Eaton and Duran, YOLO tango, YOLO tango, YOLO tango. No one said anything. That's the old Richie Ashburn story, YOLO tango with the Mets. So no one said anything. The ball drops and they get a couple of runs out of that when Ramos gets the hit. Later on, drives in a couple more. So they made things happen today. And that's what I like about today's game. They didn't strike out and walk away. Giolito pitched a nice game. It's interesting to watch a guy like that pitch. It's not 97, 98. He's got to really work it. And he got it done today. But Devers, for me, is the biggest thing of the week. That's the biggest thing of the week. And Larry, I'd love to hear your take on Boston and what they thought back there.
Yeah. By the way, Giolito reminds me of Kruko a little bit. Just, he's got the big overhand curveball, and he knows, he can be really good if you catch him on the right day. And the Giants bullpen, I thought, really did a nice job today. I mean, Rogers, Miller, Rodriguez, even Bivens. I mean, the Giants bullpen's been really good. Robbie Ray, third time through, was gettable. And Boston looked like they were going to win this game and win the series, and it just didn't happen. It was great to see. As far as the Devers thing, it's interesting. It's like, you got to kind of. It sounds like it's, it's interesting. It's ironic that Steve Kerr was there, because I think Steve Kerr and Kyle Shanahan are really good at communicating to their players. Sometimes not things that their players want to hear. I go in and talk to a lot of the Niners in the locker room down there, and they'll be like, hey, man, Shanahan will not always tell you. He's got an open door policy, and you can go to him anytime, but he's not always going to tell you what you want to hear. But he's real, he's consistent, and he will. This is the phrase I've heard time and time again. Dude shoots you straight, right? He shoots me straight. He may tell you can't do this, and I'm going with somebody else, but he shoots you straight. And I just think Boston didn't shoot Devers straight. They really didn't. They just said, hey, you know what? We paid you a boatload of cash, and so we're going to use you any way we damn well please, and you're going to do it because the bottom line is the Bucks. But this is 2025, and you have to bring everybody along. And Devers has said, hey, look, if they had come to me in spring training and said this or that. So I think it really, from his perspective, was a communication issue, and they didn't treat him with the respect. The respect is given in the money, but the respect is not only about the money. And Buster understands that, and Boston, I think, didn't understand that. The way they attacked their offseason with Bregman, you go sign that kind of a free agent at the position that you just signed a guy who's your franchise face and 28 years old. I mean, that right there was an aggressive move. I mean, there should have been a whole lot of dialogue. He should have been on board, and I don't know that he was. So a lot of that, I'll do anything in San Francisco, and I wouldn't do anything in Boston. So the people of Boston are like, bad attitude, bad guy. Big Papi's like kind of taking shots at him in the media, and that's not right. But Big Papi's wed to the franchise and probably gets a few bucks from him, and so he's going to sing that franchise song. I talked to more than a couple people that believe that John Henry bought this team for millions. It's now worth whatever, $8.5 billion, but that's a paper gain. And people, he's won his 4 titles. He's established his deal. He's made a mint, and now it looks like he's prepping to sell. And that's what you do when you're prepping to sell. You get rid of long-term big money commitments because that's viewed as risk. And they have a lot of young players, and I think that they just would rather, hit the reset and make this a more sellable asset. Now, I don't know if it's going to be sold, but we just saw the Lakers sold for a massive sum. And don't think for a second that teams like the Red Sox, who are also in that Lakers Avenue category, are not looking to cash out to the tune of massive billions. And I think that's what's coming. I would say the Red Sox will be sold within 5 years. And this is the kind of move that you make when you're going to sell. The only reason that trade would make any sense is if you're preparing to sell the franchise. Otherwise, why are you trading a 28-year-old guy for what? The Giants were dying to get rid of Hicks. Come on, that contract was ugly compared to what he was doing. And the lefty, I mean, I love him. He's a good kid, De La Salle kid. He's a 7th inning guy. He's a bullpen guy. He hasn't thrown enough strikes to be a starter. And the A-ball prospect, roll the dice. The corner outfielder, I think he's going to be. I think that's the best player in the deal, Tibbs. But I think he's a 15 to 18 home run corner outfielder, a Benny Biceps type guy. I don't think he's any kind of franchise altering difference maker. So, and then you get a 28-year-old Devers. So I think communication broke down. I think they just got, from what I heard, they turned down a better deal from another team because the Giants were willing to pay 100% of the contract, and that team wasn't. So I don't think this was a true baseball trade in the sense of it. I think it was more of a business deal, and the kind of business deal you make before you sell.
Well, Larry, you mentioned one of the things you've been mentioning over the last couple of years. What do the Giants have? Money. And they finally
and pitching usually.
Yeah, and took advantage of having the money. This is a great move. If you look at this, what's the one thing the Giants can't seem to do is get a big-time hitter in free agency. If you went out and tried to get Devers as a free agent next year, you're paying 10 years close to $400 million for him. They've got him for 8 years, about $250 after this year. So it's a great deal. And you figure a guy like Devers, as he gets older and at the end of that contract, he's still going to have that stroke. He's still going to swing the bat well, even if he's a DH, the last 3-4 years, whatever it is. He's got a similar body to Panda, but he's in better shape.
Well, I like that. I love the Madlock call by Marty. I not because he looks like Madlock. Obviously, Madlock was a right-handed hitter, but as far as a guy we can talk all day, but you know what? The guy can just hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guy can just hit, and that's what Devers can do.
Yeah, give me the bat. Clearly, Boston has a real history of things. Look, they did this with Betts. They did it with Bogarts. They let Carlton Fisk get away. They traded Babe Ruth.
Freddie Lynn.
Babe Ruth.
What about Freddie Lynn?
Freddie Lynn, that whole thing.
Jim Rice, didn't they trade Jim Rice too to the Angels?
No, I think Jim Rice didn't. He
Rice went there.
I think he did. But that's Boston sports in a way. That's they go through this with their players, and I think they, as Larry said, they just wanted them out. And it is a way to get rid of the money and now go with the kids and all this kind. That's a new regime, Breslow. And this is what he wants to do. So it's a Giants' fortune. It's the Giants' fortune that this guy fell into their lap. And the other reason why it happened is because ownership trusts Posey. They trust him. If Posey says, we want this guy and it's going to cost $250 and we need him, they're going to go out and do it. And they did it. And it's translating.
Yeah, I give him credit.
A game.
Yeah, I applaud ownership, and I've been hard on ownership. I've been hard on Greg Johnson, but to hear him speak about the deal, I was very encouraged because Greg Johnson spoke very fluently and seemed to be really aware of what was going on and really tuned into the baseball side of things. And he's, in my opinion, he's been kind of aloof when it comes to baseball, and he seemed to be very engaged in this whole process. And I, for one, have to applaud him because, this is a move the Giants have made. And, I don't know what they're going to continue to do, but they have the resources going forward if they want. They only have 6 guys under contract next year. When you talk about long-term contract, I'm not talking about guys who are arbitration or guys that are making the minimum, but they have 6 guys under contract. And I think it's about $137 million is what they're allotted for. And so they still got under 100, add another 25 million for the rest of the roster. They've got 80 million to spend in the offseason if they wanted to go out and really do something.
John Heyman says they're going to be a player for Kyle Tucker.
I sure hope so, because now that it's a destination place, we've talked to Ned Colletti a lot. Ned said the one thing the Giants have to do is make this a destination place again. And now you've got Devers, a star player. You got Ramos up and coming. You got Logan Webb. You got Chapman. You got Adames. You start getting real veteran players together, that attracts other ball players. So if Devers hits well in this ballpark and starts knocking the ball out of the yard, that bodes well for the possibility of going after Tucker.
Well, we're about at the halfway point here. We're almost at game 81. So part of really the show, I love doing these post-game shows, Larry. When we used to do these, there was always that theme, and you get to the halfway point of the season. So we're actually there this week. So let's get your assessment of halfway done here. This is not an aberration anymore. As I say, you play another 25, 30 games, and you're still in this position. Well, then you're in the race to the finish. This isn't, I think maybe the Giants can hang in here or something. They're actually in it, and we're at game 81. So, Eric, I'll just start it, man. Well,
I tell you,
how do you feel about it?
I think I alluded to it a little bit here is the starting pitching to pitching is kind of what is the team right now. Maybe it's starting to wear down a little bit. Birdsong wasn't quite sharp. It was nice to see Root come back with a nice start. Ray, his last couple of starts have been a little bit more iffy. I think the Giants, we're getting close to that mark where we're going to make some deals. Starting pitching. I think you've talked about it, Marty. I think the Giants are going to have to go out there and get another starting pitcher if they want to keep that narrative of being a pitching first type of team, and then just having enough guys to hit to score enough runs to back up the pitching. So yeah, I think that's what it is. The bullpen. I have no fear of the bullpen. Yeah, Ryan Walker, he's had his moments where he hasn't looked too great. I liked his last outing. I want to see a few more like that. But I'm confident in the bullpen. But the starting pitching, if the Giants could go out there and get another starting pitcher at the deadline, doesn't have to be an ace unless it falls in their lap somehow. But go out there, get another 3 or 4. Make sure that the rotation's ready to go for the rest of the season. Again, because they're in it. We're 10 games above 500. And if they continue this, they're going to have to make a move to fortify that rotation.
Absolutely, Eric. I've been saying the same thing. I think this team, and I think Buster Posey knows it well. He was on those championship teams that added, a Jake Peavy or a Vogelsong coming back. You're going to need that type of pitcher because you cannot count on a couple of these young guys to know if they're going to be there at the stretch. They've never
or even Verlander.
Yeah, Verlander. You don't know if Roop or Birdsong's going to hold up in September. So there's a guy out there with Baltimore, and I'm not saying he's the be-all, end-all, but he's a decent pitcher that can give you 5, maybe 6 innings, competitive innings, and that's Zach Eflin. He's a free agent. Baltimore's probably going to be selling, not going to cost you a lot. That's the type of pitcher you're going to have to go out and get. Now, if you wanted to go out and be crazy, I've heard some people throw out, hey, would you go out and go after a star and use Eldridge? I don't know if I would do that. It would have to be somebody like a Skeens, which I don't think the Pirates would do. But the Giants have – I think Posey's going to play this very similar to what Brian Sabian did. He's going to pick up some extra depth pieces. He's going to strengthen the bullpen. Hey, maybe even a guy like Jake Bird out of Colorado who can give you an inning that's just going to come in and blow guys away. The Giants are going to do – Posey's knows what the formula is. He saw it work, and I think he's going to use that similar formula. He pulled off something that Brian Sabian never did, which is bringing in a star hitter in Devers. And I love the fact that he went out and got Devers in June and did not wait until it became a bidding war in July. That was a coup, and hats off to Jeremy Shelley and Zach Meneason, who worked behind the scenes on this deal. I think the whole organization has done a 180 in the last, 8-9 months. And it's terrific to see the ballpark full again. There's excitement, and this team's going to be there. It's going to be there in the race. They just got to go out and be aggressive, because the thing with this new wild card format, you only have about 7 teams that are really sellers right now. And so everybody's going to be going after the same guys. And if you can get an early jump, go after it.
And I agree with that. Especially that last line from Danny. If you can attack the market before it kind of sets itself, the teams that pay the most, I think, are the teams that pay through the nose, are right at the end. When there's pressure, are you or aren't you, and the expectations of the fans, and they've been talking about it for 2 straight weeks, and blah 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 blah. I'm going to give you a name that I think makes a lot of sense for the Giants. They need a starting pitcher, but I think what Buster has shown us this year is that they're not going to invest either in trades with trade capital or in money for starting pitching or for pitching. I think they're going to do it for position players. So if they make a trade at the deadline for pitching, it's going to be pitching that they acquire cheaply, I think. The guy that I think makes a lot of sense, and I would call up, forced, is Luis Severino. Now, before you laugh, Severino in Sacramento this year has a 6.79 ERA. His ERA on the road, 0.93. He's 2-7 with a 4.42 overall. You get him where he's not pitching in that minor league launching pad in Sacramento. I think Severino might not be a bad arm to add to the Giants' rotation on the cheap at the deadline. I don't know what it would take, but I mean, they're big investment. I don't think they want to move with Wisenhunt. I don't think they want to move. The guy that I loved is it Level? Is that his name? Johnny Level? Johnny Level. I saw him earlier this spring, and my God, Johnny Level. Don't ever trade Johnny Level. He's got thunder in his wrists. Great middle infielder. Giants have like 5 or 6 prospects led by Wisenhunt and Eldridge that they just don't want to part with. I don't expect I wouldn't expect to see Buster with a big name deal. But if he could get somebody like a Severino, somebody for cheap, that's strategic, I think he will. I think he should, and I think he will.
Well, I think you're right.
We got one super chat here, by the way. We haven't got to that was early on from a Red Sox fan. Congrats, Giants fans from Justin. Thank you, Justin. There we go.
I agree with you guys. I don't think they're going to go after pitching. I think they need a pitcher, but I think they're really concerned
in-house
about second base. They don't now. Schmidt may change the whole landscape of what we're saying over these next few weeks, where Schmidt stays hot. Schmidt looks like he can play second, which he probably can. They may be comfortable doing that, but they don't have an answer right now in the organization for second base. Fitzgerald, as nice a kid as he is, he basically can lay a bunt down, and that's about it. He just can't do anything else. Wisely really is not for them. Koss is nothing as well. They don't have a second baseman right now other than Schmidt if they want to move him there. So I think the priority for them is to settle second base. I think that's the first thing they have to do.
Well, Marty, just to grow on that thought, how about, growing that A's trade that I mentioned with Severino and getting a guy like Luis Urias? Because I think Urias is he's a guy who can play second base. He can hit a little bit. I thought that was a nice little pickup by the A's.
Yeah, you got to find someone who can handle the bat, because you get to that 7, 8, 9, and look, it's been fortunate. They faced some pitching that they took advantage of, and Bailey blooped a couple in, and Fitzgerald laid a bunt down, and the 7-hitter Fitzgerald or Adames, whoever is in that spot, Dom Smith, they're kind of getting it done. But this is still a team. Jung-Ho Lee hasn't had a hit in a couple of months. To say is an exaggeration, but this is still a team that has some dead spots in it. Now, they have Devers is going to help. Adames looks like if he gets his pitch, he's not missing it. If he gets a pitch, it's not a slider away, he can do some damage now. Smith has helped. Flores is hanging in there. But I think they're still concerned about the offense. I really do. Pitching-wise, I said this a month ago, I worry going down the stretch with Roop and Birdsong. Mm-hmm. I just do. Birdsong's still a kid mentally. When he's on the mound, it looks like he gets rattled a little bit. He's not a pitcher just yet. He'll be great, but he's not there yet. Roop can give you 6 great innings if the curveball is there, if they haven't seen him before. Like Boston hadn't seen him before. So before you knew it, 6 innings went by and he pitched great. Verlander, I just don't trust him physically. So I'm with you guys. Zach Eflin would be fine. Severino would be fine. I think Lugo from Kansas City is another one who could be fine. I want a second baseman like an Urias, someone who can handle the bat and is not an automatic out. Because right now, 8 and 9 are automatic outs. And 7
automatic, It's
with Lee, that's almost another one.
You bring up Lee, Marty. Yeah. Let's take a look at this. This is a concern, Jung-Ho Lee. Look at his Baseball Savant page on his hard hit and bat speed. Look how bad that is. Barrel rate. That is poor. He's in the poor range with bat speed, hard hit percentage, and barrel percentage, and exit velocity. That is, I made the comment at the end of the game in a text group. When he hits the ball, it looks like he's feathering it. The ball just kind of floats when he hits it in the air.
No authority.
There's just nothing because of the bat speed. And
he's waving at it. He's waving at it.
Very good. Yes, Larry. Yes. He's just waving.
It's a huge concern to me because, the Giants have, started him at 3rd in the order. They moved him up to 1st. Now they're down at 6th. He's moving him around. I don't like Yaz leading off. He's hitting better than, he's hitting fine, but I still don't think Yaz is a great guy to have in the leadoff.
They need the right-handed hitter. Matos is hot right now, but he's not ready yet. So it's the Randall Grichuk type. The Tommy Pham type. You got to give me a player who can play. They can do some damage here. They can. They can, but they need to fortify the bench a little bit more. The backup catcher is a 0 when you put him in the game. The two of them, Porter or Kinzer, whatever it is.
Well, and Bailey at the plate. Bailey is just
so. There's some work to be done there. There's some work to be done, but basically, I'm with you guys. I would like to see a starting pitcher, but it's like Posey, learn from Sabian. You bring in that extra lefty. There's Wisenhunt. Why is he not here?
Before the Giants trade any prospects for starting pitching, let's take a look at Wisenhunt. Now, it's not like Wisenhunt's sitting at A ball and you're rushing him up. They've been very deliberate with him. He's had a lot of success in the minor leagues. I don't know if I would jump up and down and be like, they're deficient in bringing him up right now. But if it's a month from now and he still hasn't come up, I'm kind of there. And I definitely wouldn't make a huge move for a starter before you find out what that kid can contribute, because he's got a 2-pitch fastball changeup that's going to play at any level. So I can't wait to see what it looks like here.
Would you guys have Wisenhunt as a starter? Would you have him as a starter or as a reliever, since he's only got 2 pitches?
I'd like to see him
Starting.
as a major leaguer, and then we'll figure out what he can do. But at some point, you got to see the guy. But what about Verlander? I mean, are we just assuming Verlander's back? And, his last game looked a lot like the A's game. When he got hurt, he still didn't have command of his stuff. He really didn't.
Marty, I'll tell you, I think this is all tied together. If I'm the Giants, I spin this to other teams as, hey, I've got a hired gun that I can trade you. Hey, why do you want to move him? Because I want to move Wisenhunt into the rotation. You have a ready-made excuse, and to me, I think I would see if I could move Verlander, because they're going young on the mound. I mean, do you really want to give Justin Verlander a start every 5th day on the second half of the year with all these good young arms? I don't know that I do. I'd rather move him on and give that spot to Wisenhunt. See if you can add something at the deadline that gets you some momentum offensively, a bit more in that direction, and see if you can bash your way with your young pitching to a playoff appearance. And man, once you get in, anything's possible.
And you know what? I don't think you're going to even have to trade him. I think nature's going to run its course with Verlander. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up getting some kind of serious injury and then Wisenhunt gets the call. That would not surprise me one bit. I think maybe that's what I don't want to say they're waiting for, but maybe they just have him in the back, stashing him away, because if an injury does pop up, he's the next guy that the Giants can go to.
Somebody, not to interrupt you, but somebody in here says, I trust Verlander more than any of the rooks. Okay, let's fast forward. It's game 163. Giants are in a flat-footed tie. They got to have it. And you can go with Verlander or Roop. Who are you going with? I'm going with Roop. I don't care about the experience. I'm going with Roop. I'm going with the guy with the stuff.
Well,
you can have the guy with the experience.
Well, Verlander will play out because he's got to pitch. So
he has to pitch.
Maybe he just had another child. Him and Kate Upton. Maybe he gets a new lease on life, feels a new energy, and comes back the second half.
Well, he needs command. Command of his breaking stuff. It's all over the place. He's throwing it all over, and he's got to come in.
Yeah, the one thing with Wisenhunt
against the Marlins Tuesday. And then he'll be in that White Sox series over the weekend. So he gets the Marlins and the White Sox. And if he can't get past those 2 teams, I'd be very concerned.
Yes,
that makes sense.
That's for sure. Now, Wisenhunt has been doing well down at Sacramento, but he's up to about 80 innings so far on the season. So if he keeps up the pace, what is he going to be good for in September too? The Giants have all these young guys, Roop and Birdsong and Wisenhunt, that haven't really pitched that many innings. So when you get into that kind of baseball where it's September baseball, are they going to have anything left? That's why it's critical that, and we all agree, I think, is that they go get a veteran pitcher. I wouldn't even settle for one. I think 2 pitchers, if you can get 2 pitchers, because I'm not counting on Verlander at all. And what we saw from Birdsong the other day, great stuff, but if he doesn't have it, he gets a little upset, and then he starts hanging balls even more, and he doesn't have that composure that veterans have. So I think they need to be looking at that range. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, the Giants, we saw this with Wilmer Friday night, and we saw him again tonight in the starting lineup. And I like when they face a right-handed pitcher. I personally like Dom Smith at first base and Wilmer being the pinch hitter that can come up in a key situation. I think if you play Wilmer too much at first base, you're going to wear him out. And Dom Smith has been nothing but productive. Why not, use – I know what the plan is. They want to get Devers at first and Wilmer's bat in the lineup. But I kind of like Dom Smith playing first base. He gives you great defense. He gives you, reliable offense. He's not an automatic out. And I feel really comfortable with him in the field. And I really feel good when Wilmer comes up in the 7th, 8th inning and you need a hit, because they don't have anybody on the bench that you feel comfortable with coming up. I mean, you're going to go with Koss. You're going to go with Kinzer. You're going to go. They have no bench.
Johnson.
Johnson's just as bad as those other guys.
Yeah. He's actually had some decent at-bats, but he's not an offensive player, really.
Don't forget, they traded their depth at pitching and getting rid of Harrison and Hicks. That was sort of the thing. Well, if these guys don't do well, we've always got 2 extras to slot in here. Well, they don't really have 2 extras anymore to slot in there. And I think there's some priority in getting another starting pitcher. They don't, other than Wisenhunt, what's their depth at starting pitcher?
Ragsdale, Seymour.
Yeah, I'll say Ragsdale's a big guy with a power arsenal. There's no question about that. I don't know how refined he is, but he's down there working his way through. I don't think that they're super, naked, but at the same time, it would be nice if you had a one more starter that you could really trust in down the stretch.
Yes.
What do you think about Duvall? Since this is the halfway part of the season, let's take a look at the bullpen. How you feel about the bullpen? Because it is a game of bullpens, and for the Giants, when they can make it a 6-inning game, they're very tough to beat. So let's throw that around a little bit.
I really want to see Rodriguez as a closer. I do. The guy, he comes out, but he never gives anything up. Problem is, I just don't know where he is as far as being built up. I don't know if there's a concern because he throws so hard. I don't know. I know last year he had an issue with his shoulder, but man, the guy, he comes in and you don't have to worry. There's no stress. Duvall comes in. There's times where he's lights out, and then there's times like yesterday where he looks like Brian Wilson, where you're just wondering.
Problem with Rodriguez is he's not very durable as far as recovery time. They say he's a smaller guy, and they say after he pitches a game, he's not always available the next day. And you can't have your closer only available every other day. You got to, if you need a closer that's going to lock it down 2 games in a row. And I like Rodriguez personally. To me, he's been the best pitcher when they're in trouble, not starting an inning. When he comes in and there's a man on base or 2 men on base.
He can get a strikeout.
Yeah, he just shuts it down.
He can get a strikeout. The guy's an overpowering guy. I also like him in an era when you don't focus on him. I really believe that if teams really, if he was the 9th inning guy and teams were scouting ways to beat him and the game slows down in the 9th, I don't think that's to his advantage. I think you can steal outs in the middle of the game with an overpowering arm that's also really resilient. And to me, if you can keep him relatively fresh, he could man one of the most vital roles for you between now and the end of the year. But I would keep him out of the 9th inning. As far as Duvall, I think was the question.
Yeah.
I just lefties really don't touch him at all. I mean, at all. So I'm looking at the numbers. 125 is what lefties have hit off Duvall this year. That's surprising. So I'll say this: I like his command more this year. Only 15 walks in 35 innings. So if he can command it, I still get the vibe that the smarter teams can kind of have a plan against him. And I don't know how refined he is, with pressure late in innings, with playoffs on the line. So I mean, I still think I would listen to calls for him because he's hot right now and he's an awesome arm. But I don't know how much I trust him. So I would play it more matchup based. I don't think I would. I definitely wouldn't hand him the ninth inning with some kind of coronation where he just gets this dominant role. I would make him kind of dangle the carrot the entire way through.
Well, I don't know. I don't know mentally if you could do that for him because they
aren't they doing it right now?
Well, they had to build him up to get him back to this.
Yeah,
and they sent him down to the minor leagues and all that stuff. He's slider crazy. He just doesn't trust that 100, and the slider's a little flat, but he's their guy. Your point is well taken on Rodriguez that everyone made on his durability. And he is better in that 6th inning and 7th inning when you need a strikeout, to get you out of a jam. They may need a lefty. I mean, Lucchesi isn't the answer there.
No.
Miller is being used a lot. They may have to deal with the bullpen. It's not. And Walker, what do you think about Walker now? Walker, you never know what you're going to get with him. So there's a little bit of, I want to say it's slightly uneasy for me. They get it done. They're still terrific, 6th inning on, but it's not quite as easy as it was a month ago.
Larry's been talking about this guy for years. If Boston somehow falls out of this race, he just dealt with Boston. How about Aroldis Chapman?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Boy.
I got a chance to see him on Friday. My God, that guy's 37. That guy's built. There's not 1 ounce of fat on that guy.
He's still amazing. He's still amazing. Yeah. He's one of the greatest arms of our lifetime.
Hall of Famer.
Close.
If you take the Cuban stats, absolutely. Guy was awesome in Cuba before. So yeah, he's one of the greatest natural throwers of the ball. Was it a year ago? But here's the thing about Chapman. He might be a little too bad for the Giants. You know what I mean? The Giants don't like guys who have issues off the field that much. He might be kind of a little too bad of a guy for the Giants.
It's interesting because I was reading up on the Red Sox with Harrison. He's gone now, but they are working with a cutter on him. They want to he's been throwing the 2-seamer, but they're working on a cutter. They feel like he needs an extra pitch. And it's funny that the Giants have had him for all these past, 3+ years, and they've never really altered much what he does. And then the Red Sox get him and they're going to change up him right away.
Danny, you know what they're seeing? They're seeing they're dreaming Al Leiter. They're dreaming the Al Leiter dream.
Chris Sale.
It's amazing what Al Leiter did with the cutter. And if you, as a lefty, if you can establish that cutter that comes out of the exact same arm slot as your fastball, and that cutter runs up the bat of the right-handed hitter, you can. That to me, I think it's really smart. Now, I don't think his command's good enough to be a starter. I've seen him come out and look amazing, and then all of a sudden he loses command. So I would question whether I see Kevin Rogers with him, which is nothing wrong with that. Kevin Rogers is a very good 7th inning pitcher, but I don't trade 7th inning pitchers for Devers. So that's I think Buster sees the same thing I see. He sees a guy that has a good arm slot, really durable lefty, but he's not really going to be anything more than a valuable lefty setup guy.
Well, what do you think about the division? Dodgers come back and scored 13 today. Muncy drove in 7, I think a slam and a 3-run homer. As I said earlier, San Diego trouble. I don't know. They don't hit. Their bullpen is not the same. Arizona can't get out of their own way. They got beat today by Colorado. How do you feel about the division here at the halfway point?
It's gettable. If I'm the Giants, sharpen your knives, and if I'm Buster, I'm telling my guys, hey, let's be hyper aggressive here because it's gettable, it's doable. You're 3.5 games back. You have better pitching than them. So
Ohtani gave an inning today.
Yeah, but I think overall, the Dodgers have some questions about their pitching. I think they're gettable.
And the Giants had opportunities in LA, right? They did. Unfortunately, they weren't able to capitalize. It's it's just like last year. Dodgers had no freaking pitching. I don't know how many pitches they went through last year, but they went through a lot. I think this year it's around the same. So yeah, if you can outpitch the Dodgers, especially in the stretch, man, you're looking pretty damn good. 3.5 games behind the Dodgers. That's pretty good.
I look at it a little different.
If you told me in the offseason that the Giants on June 22nd were 3.5 games behind the Dodgers, I would think you're nuts.
I hope I'm wrong on this, but I look at it differently. The Dodgers is like, you talk about a trade deadline. They've got Snell coming back. They got Glasnow and Ohtani as he gets worked up. That's 3 starters that we're going to go 5+ once they get, Ohtani worked up. And how are you going to beat Ohtani, Snell, and Glasnow pitching 5 innings once they get that offense fully going?
I'll tell you what, Snell hasn't pitched, though. That's the problem. And he sucks in the first half of the season. And now
they're just waiting. They're just waiting on him. They're not playing Snell. If this was October, Snell would probably be pitching.
Well, they don't rush anybody. That's the luxury of being the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. So they're gonna look. We saw what they did with the Padres and the Giants. Once anybody gets close to them, they get pumped up and they play a little better. They hit better. I mean, the Giants had them. I mean, if it wasn't for that Ryan Walker 3-run homer that he gave up to Pages on Father's Day, the Giants could have been tied for first place, leaving LA. Instead, they're what now? 3.5, 4 back, roughly?
3.5, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if the Giants have the horses to keep up with the Dodgers, to be honest. I mean, to me, it feels like the Dodgers will win this division by double digits again once they kick it in gear. They always do in the second half. They were hanging around like this last year. We were like,
Hey, San Diego almost passed them at the very end of the season. It was that close.
The key is going to be the division. The Dodgers right now are 14-6 inside the division, and the Giants are sub 500 in the division. So I mean, that's going to be it right there. You're going to have. I mean, obviously, you don't have the unbalanced schedule, so it's not all those games in the division. It's not quite as important, but I still think it's important. I mean, if you're going to commandeer a division, you have to be over 500 against your own division.
That's fair.
Yeah, and Giants have to be better. Bottom line is, Giants have to be better against left-handed pitching. The Giants are 8-14 against. The Giants are 36-20 against righties. They're 8-14 against lefties. Where the Dodgers, by comparison, are 37-20 against righties, but they're at least 500 against lefties. You got to hang around against lefties. Everybody in the division is roughly 500 against lefties, except for the Rockies, who are 2-19, and the Giants, who are 8-14. So I mean, to me, that if you could find another bat that could somehow have good numbers against left-handed pitching that you could either play in the lineup or off the bench, I think that's what you're looking at.
Well, so at the halfway point, they look like a playoff team, right?
They do.
I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee is all of a sudden Milwaukee's starting to win again. This is not the Milwaukee team we saw earlier in the year. Yelich is hitting. They got the new kid, Mizrachi or whatever his name is. 2 stars.
Gosh, he's something else.
Yeah, they're looking better.
Cardinals are looking better.
St. Louis is hanging around. The Mets are getting a little shaky. The Phillies are still there. You got the Cubs and you got the West. But of the whole group of everybody, I think the Giants are, one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league right now.
Well, when you look at the actual wild card standings, it's really, if you factor in the Braves into it, they're iffy, but I don't count them out because of what they have. You're talking 8 teams playing for 3 spots here. Look at, you got the Phillies, Giants, Brewers, Padres, Cardinals, Reds, Diamondbacks, all within 3.5. And then the Braves, they're playing really 500 ball, just a little over 500 ball since their 0-9 start. The Giants are 3 games over 500 since their 8-1 start. So we still got a little over 80 games to go. So there's plenty of time for Atlanta to get back into this.
Yeah, the loss column is the thing for me. 34, then 35 for the Brewers, 35 for the Padres, 36 for the Cardinals, 38 for the Red. Yeah, look. It's still wide open. But for half a season, hey, they're the second wild card team right now.
Right.
That's pretty good. And Atlanta, they took another blow. Chris Sale's going to be on the shelf for quite a while. Broken rib.
It's not Atlanta's year.
No.
That now let
Which
me ask
they
you
would
guys
be a
this.
team. They would be a great team to call about a couple of their guys.
Let me ask you this. I want to bring that up because I've got a video coming out on this on Marcell Ozuna. I think the Giants.
Put him, Danny? Where would you
DH? I put Devers at first.
What are you gonna do with Devers?
First base. First base. And
This
now
year?
I've got. What's that?
This year?
You're cornering the market on DHs here.
He's a free agent.
They're going to put Devers at first base one of these days.
Oh, of course. I mean, Devers is here to play first. He's not here to be the most expensive DH in the world.
So then you put him at first base. You put Ozuna as the DH batting fourth right behind Devers. And I would put maybe Chapman when he comes up, bat him second in front of Devers. That way he sees better pitches because putting Chapman with no protection behind him, he just gets easily, they're not going to want to put Chapman on base in front of Devers.
Adames is going to hit second at some point. They're not paying Adames, $30 million a year to hit seventh.
It's funny though, Marty, if you listen to the pregame today, Bo Mel told Flem that they've decided that through their R&D people, that because Devers OPS is best in the 2-hole, Bo Mel says he wants to put him in the 2-hole. So I think Bo Mel's going to. I think Devers might be in that 2-hole.
That's where he's been batting in Boston.
That's where they put the best hitter. They put him in the 2-hole.
Yeah,
I also thought it was interesting that of all the stats. I mean, even though it wasn't a conversation about stats, but when he was asked about Devers, it's like the stat that he deferred to is his OPS. So we talk about on base percentage, we talk about slugging, we talk about average, home runs, all these different things. Your razor, your whatever, blip, whip, whatever. There's a million stats out there. Pick one. But it sounds like, without doing any kind of deep dive research, that at least when it comes to hitters, Bo Mel favors OPS, which is the blend of slugging and on-base percentage. So if you're looking for just a universal hitter stat, that sounds like that's probably it today.
Yeah.
The OPS.
Well, that's, it makes sense. You get on, the slugging is the deal because you don't want to have to get 4 singles to score a run. So when you can slug, that means you got doubles and triples and home runs, and that's the key. And that's where the Giants have had trouble, really, with the slugging. But look, the weather's getting warmer, and the pitchers are getting tired, and they couldn't be in. I don't think they could be in better shape right now for all the mystery and all the new stuff and Posey and Adames struggling and all this kind of stuff. For all that, I think they're in great shape right now. I really do.
And they absolutely are, and they have options as well. I mean, the question is, has what we've seen from Casey Schmidt, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does that mean he's the second baseman as Danny's throwing out there, and I like that idea? Does that mean that he's potentially the third baseman, and they would entertain moving Chapman? I don't know. I mean, it's like, if you look at, if there was a guy that to me was a little disappointing 3 weeks ago, it was kind of Chapman. I don't know how you guys feel about Chapman.
He started hitting the ball for about a couple of weeks before he got hurt, and then he got hurt, and now they're saying what?
Yeah. He is who he is. He is who he is. He's a guy who's going to end up the season with 22 and 78. He's going to hit about 247, and he's going to be a fabulous third baseman. That's who he is. And there's a spot for him on the team. You have to love the guy for what he does at third base. And he can run into a few. And over the course of 162, he's going to end up with some numbers that are respectable.
Right.
Well, it'll be interesting then, because I would say you're going to have Devers at first, you're going to have Casey at second. You're going to have Chapman at third, and obviously, your shortstop. And then to me, it's like, I guess if you're going to improve offensively, you're going to get an outfielder.
Well, you need a fourth outfielder. You do need one, right?
Well, you got Matos down in the minors.
Yeah, but he was overmatched here. He was completely
hitting
overmatched.
well. AAA. To me, the Matos thing fits right in with the Ramos and Schmidt. They just need to give these guys regular at bats,
give them
let them know that they're in the lineup. And these guys have been jerked around for 2-3 years, getting in and out of the lineup. And if they don't produce, they're looking over their shoulder. If you notice Ramos and Schmidt, they know they're not coming out. They're just there. The Giants had nobody last year in the outfield. Ramos shined. Schmidt, they don't have a third baseman, could take his spot. I guess if you could put Devers, but that's not what they brought him here for. So he looks comfortable at the plate. He's not chasing pitches. He's like going the opposite way. And he just looks like he belongs. And I think Matos could do the same if they let him play. And we'll never know because the Giants don't give runs. They'd rather go with guys. I mean, look, Yaz, to me, he's an excellent outfielder. He's the perfect fourth outfielder, defensive replacement type guy. He's 34. He's going to be a free agent. I don't know what the Giants see in playing him every day over a Matos when you had a chance. They pretty much never gave Matos the chance this year, and he never got off the ground. Now, we don't know. Maybe he would have failed, but the Giants never gave him a run. And that's my issue with the Giants' young guys. They have these guys that they're high on, and they don't give them a shot. And I think if you would have given him a shot last year and just let him play when you weren't a competitive team, you would know more. But
it's just hard to do because, this year, because they want to compete and they want to develop. But I agree with Danny. I mean, look, if you're a Giants fan, Matt Williams came up in 1986 or 1987, but he didn't establish himself until 1994. So it takes a while sometimes. And what you do is, I was an advocate for sending Matos down to regain his stroke, to bring him back up. And so if he's hot down there, I would bring him up and see, and then bring him up and don't ice him. Bring him up and give him the job for a few weeks, and let's see if he can swim.
What do you do with the Yastrzemskis?
Play him in center field while Jung-Hoo Lee is not doing anything.
I like Yastrzemski off the bench as a backup in right and center, and I agree with Danny. I'd play him more in center until Jung-Hoo Lee gets it wrong.
Right-handers, though.
Yeah, I know, and I like the year he's having. I mean, it's not like, but I mean, to me, Matos has got the potential to really give you something. Matos is like a Ramos. Matos is a potential guy. Yaz is a role player. Always has been, always will be. So I don't know that I would kowtow to Yaz, but I hear you, Marty. It's like you got to blend that, right? You got to blend the development of Matos, and you can't just bury one of your team leaders.
And here's a problem, because Matos is out of options. So maybe he's going to be trade bait, because if he's not part of the future, then maybe you trade him for a
I would definitely not trade him.
I hear you.
I wouldn't trade him the same way I wouldn't trade Ramos.
But they're going to have to find a place to play him, because he's going to be out of options, and then it's going to take care of itself.
We're at the midway point of the season with a team that can do something. You can't fool around.
Right.
This isn't a tryout camp anymore.
Right.
You got to bring a player in who's going to contribute, whether it's a starting pitcher, a bullpen guy, or an outfielder. And I think, we're deep enough into the season where I don't think they're going to do that and just bring Matos back and put him in the lineup and see what happens. I don't see it.
Depends how well he's going in the minors, I guess. How well is he going right now?
He's over 300, has almost 1,000 OPS. He hit
and what meaningful adjustments has he made? You know what I mean? Outside the numbers, it would have to be, hey man, he's had a breakthrough. He's been rolling. We feel like he's a different guy. You know what I mean? It would have to be more than just, hey, he's got it rolling.
He's hitting.
I kind of agree with Marty. If you're, if this were, if you weren't in the race, it'd be one thing. But I don't know I'd love to hear Buster's thought process on kind of how he sees the lineup going forward, as far as, does he want to stay in house and keep going with these guys? Because I mean, it worked with Ramos, and maybe it could work with Matos. And if it does, man, you really got something, because you're talking about a good defensive center fielder with a great arm.
Yeah.
And look, Ramos can use some help defensively late in the game.
Just a bit.
For sure.
You never know with him what's going to happen. In
Yeah,
left
he's a little bit of a
I mean,
wild card out there, isn't he?
He is a
Yeah.
wild card. He somehow
Yeah.
gets to the ball and he's diving, he's sliding, he's this, he's that. He one clanked off his glove today. It wouldn't bother me to see him come out. Well, they don't score enough runs to do it, but if you get a decent lead of 3 or 4 runs, it wouldn't bother me to see him come out of the game for defensive reasons at the end.
Yeah.
So maybe Matos could do that, but Matos was no picnic in the outfield.
His glove wasn't all that great either.
Let me ask you guys a question here, because what do you think the Giants, if you had the ability this year to make a trade and you could get, another bat like an Ozuna or some other bat that was played and lengthened the lineup, or you could get a guy like Paul Skeens if the Pirates said, you know what, we're going to do the unthinkable. We know we're not going to keep him all 6 years here. We got 4 years. We're not going anywhere. Let's load up with 3 or 4 young stars. Who would you prefer to have? Would you prefer to have a Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, Rodon rotation going in the playoffs? Or would you rather think the bat, and because to get a Skeens, you'd have to give up Eldridge. That's the most valuable asset the Giants have. So would you go that route, or is that something that is completely far-fetched? Because some people I see in the chat talking about it. I hear some talk around Major League Baseball saying Pirates aren't going to be able to hang on to Skeens at some point. They're going to have to let him go before he gets to free agency. What would you prefer?
Well, if you can get Skeens, you'd love him, but you got him for 4 more years before he'd be a free agent. But it's going to take more than Eldridge to get him.
Oh, I just did a little – the Giants don't have much.
Skeens is a Clemens kind of guy, he's the guy you hand him the ball, and that's the end of the game.
Giants don't have much, but this is what it would take it would take, because of their values, it would take Eldridge. These are the top guys without giving up, your Ramoses and your big players, but, takes Eldridge, Lee, Fitzgerald, Walker, Martin, and Dakota Jordan, and that's not even enough. Doesn't even equal what Skeens is worth by himself. So I don't know if they have the means to do it, but if the Pirates decided, look, we got to build 3-4 hitters. The Pirates need to do what they did back when they had Barry Bonds. They had all those young players and hitters, and they had, a group of guys that were actual star players that were young, but they couldn't keep Bonds. They're never going to keep anybody. The owner's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to get guys that are very young, and they don't have anybody to get that young stars except Skeens. So at some point, they'll probably wait, though. I imagine they'll keep Skeens for another 2 years and wait until year 4 when he still has 2 years left before they do anything, is my guess. I don't think
pitchers like that are just not moved.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not moved. I mean,
one of the best in the game. Why? I could,
because right now he's making them money and not costing them money. When he starts costing money, that's when Pittsburgh will get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, how young can they go? I mean, you want them to get junior high kids? Basically, they're so young now. How many young players can you have? Just, I don't know. I'd rather see the vet. You don't want to gut. Firstly, you don't want to gut the farm system.
Yeah.
Whatever they do have, and you don't want to gut the team. It's very important. I think Devers came in. This is where we started and maybe where we'll finish. But Devers came in, which is huge, because he got a wake-up call. He got a wake-up call in Boston by being traded. He's saying all the right things. He's smiling. He's hugging. He's got Gatorade poured on him. He's a new man. And that's their team. That's who they are. And they don't want to bring in anything, like Larry said, like an Aroldis Chapman. They don't want to bring in anything crazy to upset what they got now. They like what they have now. And if you can add a pitcher at the expense of someone, I would do it, or a second baseman, I would do it. But anything major above that, I don't think they're going to do it. I think they like the team.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, if you looked at the National League West, and you looked at the Dodgers, and then the Diamondbacks were in the World Series a couple years ago, and then you saw the energy that the Padres had, and then you looked at inside their yard, and you looked at all those good offensive players they had. Now the Giants suddenly have these offensive players, and now the energy is suddenly in the Giants' yard. And isn't it amazing how if you add a dynamic offensive player, how energy returns to your yard? So I like the heavy lifting has been done. I think they just need to just see exactly how they can fine tune it. Probably, as you said, with another starter. But I kind of agree with Marty. I think at least based on what I've read and what I know about the trade market, I think if I'm the Giants, look at the date. It's June 22nd. I think in the next 3 weeks you get a major league look. Maybe it's a glimpse, maybe it's an extended look, but in the next 3 weeks, you get a major league look at Whisenhunt. And if Whisenhunt looks like a starting pitcher that you can plug into your rotation, guess what? You don't need to make a trade. He's your guy. But if he looks really, really enticing, but another year and a half away, maybe they would consider making a move. So I do think they're going to take a look at Whisenhunt before and get an idea of what he looks like at the major league level before they make their trade deadline moves. So we'll see what it looks like.
I mean, Beck, Jelly's got trouble now. Beck,
Yeah.
Bivens, all these. As I say, their depth is gone. If they got something in the organization, we better see it soon before July 31st.
Yeah, no question.
All right, good enough.
Well. Yeah, what's
good
the
stuff?
One
Little
catcher?
NBA finals going on.
Yeah, what's
Okay.
one
Did it
catcher
start
you'd like
already?
to see the Giants go after before we get out of here? What one catcher could the Giants bring in that I like Sean Murphy of the Braves, but I was originally thinking Hicks would be a good candidate for a trade for salary, but that's gone. But the Giants have money. They're still far under the cap. Murphy's a good defensive catcher and a better hitting catcher.
They
And
need
he
a
hits
backup. They just needed Bailey. He's the guy.
But you can't have Bailey in the playoffs. That's just an automatic out.
Danny, I'm telling you, you got to carry him. Then you got to improve second base, and you got to deal with Yastrzemski hitting in the 7th spot. But what Bailey gives him behind the plate is just you can't unless you're bringing Yogi Berra in. I'm sorry.
I mean, I kind of agree with Marty as far as you can't really do anything unless you're going to do something major. So the name that I keep throwing out is I love because I saw him in the futures game. The Orioles AAA catcher Basallo, who's a left-handed hitter. Now he's a hitter. He's not a great receiver, but he's a hitter. He's a big-time left-handed hitter. He's a line drive bat. Now you'd have to give something major. I don't know if you'd have to give Eldridge. You have to give something major, not Eldridge, but you'd have to give something major to get Basallo. He might be the Orioles, top 3 prospect or something. But that's the kind of guy that would be a perfect blend. You've got this guy who can absolutely rake line drives, left-handed hitter, and he's an offensive catcher. And then you play him, opposite Bailey, who's a defensive catcher who's going to play the majority of the time. That's the kind of piece I'd be looking for. I don't know if he's gettable.
Yeah, well, the Kinzer, could run into a few, but they need a catcher who can come in and do something. I'm telling you, that 7, 8, and 9, that dead spot is going to eat them up at some point because you're putting a lot of pressure on these other guys to get something done. So we'll see, but good show.
That's why when you get Chapman in here, and if you put Schmidt over at second, the lineup's a little longer.
Well, that solves the set, because Schmidt is hitting, so yeah, he could be the Marco Scutaro or the Freddie Sanchez, the guy who, can get it done, which he's doing. So you don't want to get too crazy about it, but he's certainly gotten his chance and he hasn't missed it. And that's what baseball and life is all about. So good. All right. This was fun.
Very good.
Larry, how do you like the NBA?
I like OKC. They're at home. It's Game 7. I think the Thunder are going to prevail. That'd be my guess.
All right. Danny?
I'm going to go. I originally
Pacers?
said whoever won game 4 was going to win the championship, which OKC did. I said it's going to go 7 no matter what. I'm going to change. I think the way Indiana played in game 6 and OKC was cold, I think OKC is a little tight. They're younger. I think Siakam plays a huge role tonight. He's a veteran who's won a title with Toronto against the Warriors in 19. Something tells me it's a magical year with Indiana, the way they've just been able to get through these playoffs. I think it's going to be a very close game. And I think OKC does what they did against the Warriors in the the 16 season and lost game 7 at home in the Western Conference Finals. I'm taking Indiana in a squeaker.
All right. Taking Indiana, and I'm saying Caitlin Clark comes off the bench in the fourth quarter. They win.
That's great. I know you ain't putting that up there, Dan. I know what you're talking about. That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I could put that up there. I have my no WNBA.
Yeah, that's what I was.
What do you have?
In the world we live in today, nothing would surprise me.
What do I have?
Yes. Look at that. How very forward thinking.
Good for you, Dan. Very good.
I'm not a fan of the WNBA.
Hey,
I
it's
prefer.
great. Look, they sell the place out. It's
I know. I prefer to see the game above the rim a little bit more, but that's just me.
Well,
Nothing
No, it's
personal.
obviously not. I've looked at the attendance. It's not just you.
Yeah, it's not me. Yeah, I know it's just
It's not
me.
just
Yeah.
you.
People love it. People love it. Hey, to each his own. That's what makes America great, right?
But she made the league now. I mean, she just took it to another.
Tell the other players who keep look like their sole goal is to kneecap her.
Yeah, Damon had it. Damon said if it wasn't for her, the rest of the league would be selling shrimp cocktails or something. On the-
She'd be like Babe Ruth. People throwing at Babe Ruth's head in 1920.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's incredible. Well, this is fun. All right, we'll do this again. This is good.
Absolutely. It was fun,
All right.
guys.
All right.
Thanks,
be well.
everybody. Have a great night.
All
Go
right, be well.
Giants.
Don't forget, like and subscribe, right, Larry?
Like and
That's right. Like and subscribe. Blow up Marty. Hit the Krug
Yeah.
Show.
There
Danny's
you go.
NorCal Sports Network. Like and subscribe everywhere. Peace.
Nice job, Ryan, great job. Eric, a pleasure as always.
Awesome. Here we go. See
All
you
right,
guys.
see you guys.
Thank you kindly. Enjoy the next week. We've got a whole bunch of baseball to speak on here at Marty